Welcome to The Haunted Beard, everybody. My name is Jake. Thank you for joining me. It's all horror and thriller movie content on my channel. If this is your first time stumbling upon one of my videos, welcome. Thank you for joining me. And if you're a regular around here, welcome back. Thanks for joining me once again. Well, the wait is finally over. Salem's Lot is finally available to watch on streaming. This was a long time coming. I remember making a most anticipated video for 2023 in like January of that year, and this was on it, and here we are almost 2 years later, and it's finally available to watch. So I'm gonna get into my thoughts. Let's do it. Salem's Lot is, of course, adapted from the well-known Stephen King book, and it tells the story of an author who returns to his childhood hometown of Jerusalem's Lot in search for inspiration for his next book. But unfortunately, he discovers that the townspeople are being attacked by a bloodthirsty vampire. Now, I'll start off this review by saying I don't have any previous experience with this story. I haven't read the book, and I haven't seen any of the previous adaptations of this story. I know there's the TV version from the 70s and also one from the early 2000s. I haven't seen any of those, so this is my very first introduction into this world and into this story. And Salem's Lot, for me, I think is the epitome of an easy watch, cozy horror movie. The type of movie that you throw on a rainy Saturday afternoon when you just kind of want to relax and put something on that will keep your interest enough, but it's not going to do anything to absolutely blow you away. It's a film that I don't feel wasted my time. I enjoyed it enough, but it didn't do anything super memorable. Now, regarding some more specifics, the first thing that I liked about it, I liked the kind of small town feel, this kind of closely knit community, the town where everybody knows everybody's business and yet everybody has secrets at the same time. So I like that aspect and that dynamic of it. I feel like Gary Dauberman, the director, did a pretty good job kind of capturing the time period of the 70s. You know, the movie looks and feels authentic enough within that sort of time frame, and I like that small town setting. However, my main issue with the movie is that I kind of just wanted more. I liked the characters for the most part, but I felt like we didn't get enough of them. We learn a little bit about them. They're kind of interesting enough, but I felt kind of shortchanged. And this is a film and a story that I feel like it just needed more room to breathe, and it needed more time to kind of expand and build on this small town and this small community and the characters within it. Which now, after having watched this, I'm kind of really intrigued to go back and watch the other previous adaptations of this story, knowing that they were made for TV movies and they are longer than this. And so this is a film that I felt like would benefit from actually being longer. Very often my criticisms are that there's not enough story to go around. It should be way shorter. This is one of those movies that there's enough intrigue in it to where it's like, I kind of want more of this, but we don't really get enough. It's like we get just a tidbit of information about the main characters that cause some, interest and curiosity. But again, we kind of feel shortchanged. I like the character of the priest, and they kind of hint at him going through this crisis of faith when all the vampire violence and craziness unleashes. But I wish we would have gotten more of that. I like the character of the doctor, played by Alfre Woodard. She does a good job. She has a couple funny moments, too, that genuinely got a good laugh out of me. And I liked sort of her conflict that they just barely touch on with her, being a person of science and medicine and then trying to kind of come to terms with this sort of supernatural, vampire stuff. So I like that, but I wish we would have gotten more. And I also wish we would have gotten more from Ben and Susan's relationship. And I just think any more that they could have done to kind of build the dramatic foundation of their relationship and their feelings for one another, the film would have benefited from that. And I also wish we would have got more vampire violence. And maybe that's just the horror fanboy in me coming out, I guess. But I kind of felt a little bit shortchanged with regards to the vampire stuff in the movie as well. And I unfortunately, I wasn't really a big fan of the look and the design of the vampires. I felt like there was a lot of CGI used with regards not just to their, look, but in the scenes that they were in. And more specifically, it's used in the scenes where the vampires show up, to where those sequences, the color almost completely goes out, and you have almost like, it's a very muted, you know, kind of color palette, almost like black and white during the vampire scenes. And it just felt like this sort of cheap color filter that was put over it. It kind of just gave me a very sort of, again, CGI artificial feeling that I just didn't really like that visual element within the movie. It just looked cheap and fake to me. Apart from the visuals, though, with the vampires, I do like that this is more of a kind of old school classic vampire story. So I like the vampires in terms of, I guess, how they are written with regards to, you know, fending them off with the crucifix and the holy water and the stakes through the heart and stuff like that. I like kind of more of that classic vampire story, but just the visuals surrounding them, it just left quite a bit to be desired for me. And so I wish it would have just looked better. And again, I wish we would have gotten more of the vampire violence. There are a few scenes, though, that stick out here that I think are actually pretty good. There's one scene earlier on in the film where one of the kids gets kidnapped. And I like the visual presentation of that scene where you're seeing through the woods and you see just the silhouettes of the boys walking through the woods and the trees and these nice pretty colors in the back, this like kind of bluish reddish hue in the background of the sky. Just a really cool visual scene. For as much as I just kind of complained about some of the visuals, there are a couple scenes in here visually that do work. So overall, the visuals are kind of more mixed. There's a scene a little bit later on that takes place in the morgue where somebody turns into a vampire. Really enjoyed that scene. Just good fun there. It's got kind of just some good kind of classic vampire scares to it, but also some good humor. Again, Alfre Woodard is in that scene and she has a few lines that made me laugh. So just some good kind of fun vampire, spooky, creepy stuff there. And then finally, I did enjoy most of the climactic sequence, which takes place at the drive-in. And you finally feel like you get a little bit of a payoff with regards to the vampires and all that stuff. But again, it still left a little bit to be desired. There are a couple parts, and I won't get into any specifics, that I felt were a little unsatisfying or anticlimactic. But for the most part, I do like that climactic scene at the drive-in. I thought it was pretty fun. And then finally, though, I have to give a quick shout out because the character, the little kid, the character of Mark in this movie, I was a huge fan of. This kid is awesome. He's one of the best characters of the year for me. This is this like 11-year-old kid who is the most fearless, brave, smart character. And again, it's one of those things like I wish we would have gotten more of him, just like I wish we would have gotten more of a bunch of other characters. But even what we do get of him, I thought he was great. I was a huge fan of his character. So overall, like I said, this is a film that is enjoyable enough. I didn't feel like I wasted my time. I wish we would have gotten more out of it. The story, I think, just needed more time to breathe and unfold kind of thing. But as it sits, it's kind of that rainy afternoon type movie that I had a fun enough time with, but it's nothing super memorable. So for me, I'm going to give Salem's a Lot. I'm going to be like a 6 out of 10 for this one. So those are my thoughts. Like always, hit me up down below. Also, too, if you've seen any of the previous renditions, the made-for-TV versions of this story, let me know if they're worth watching. Should I check them out? I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on those as well. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.